Yes, so today we are going to be reacting to chapter 11 of Philosopher's Stone. And of course, it's another film and Griffin video. So, this week will be chapter 11, and then next week will be chapter 12. But before we get into chapter 11, I just want to say that this video is sponsored by WAG, and at the end of the video, you'll find out how to get 10% off your order of the Secrets of Paris. So stay tuned for that. Anyway, let's jump right in the video.
Welcome, dear listeners. I'm Jonathan Carlin.
And I'm Benjamin Carlin.
And we invite you to join us through the Griffin door, your one-way ticket to the enchanting world of Harry Potter. So grab your wands and dust off your broomsticks and join us as we unlock the secrets behind Philosopher's Stone, Chapter 11, Quidditch.
Ooh. Oh, this is fun.
Excellent intro today.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Really, really top shelf.
Yeah, really, I really tried to hone in on my introduction, my host voice.
No, it was good. Yeah, I could tell. Yeah, you've been working on it clearly.
Oh,
Yes. Beth, last night I've been reading, as you know, I've been reading Harry Potter to my son Luke, and like I came downstairs and she was like, "I just wanted to tell you, I heard you doing like McGonagall's voice," and I was like really impressed. Like you sounded really good, and I was like, well, thank you.
Wow.
Me, McGonagall?
That is high praise.
I know. I was like, you almost went out of your way to tell me that, so thank you so much. And now I'll see if I can summon it the next time McGonagall has a line in the book, because I realized I just set myself up for total failure.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
So like, wait a minute.
It's like night.
Hold on.
Would you like to demonstrate for us? Or yeah, no pressure. Are you sweating all
Just
of a sudden,
know that
or?
my wife is impressed with me.
Yeah, there we go.
My wife thinks I'm cool.
There you go. That's a good t-shirt. That's a good t-shirt.
Yeah.
No, that being said, chapter 11, the chapter that is Quidditch.
Quidditch.
I personally find to be a spectacular chapter.
Oh.
It does a really splendid job of both progressing. Well, let me back that up. I would say it does a really splendid job of telling a Quidditch match, making it fun and engaging for us, the reader, while also progressing the plot.
It does.
So
yeah,
I think that's the proper order to deliver that in.
Yeah, and the chapter, sort of like last week, the chapter is broken up into two sections. Basically, the front half is Snape takes Harry's Quidditch book and Harry tries to get it back, and then we just have the Quidditch match.
Yeah, so this chapter in particular, I think, is the other thing I would say about it is that it is slightly heavy-handed to the tune of, like, it had never really occurred to me until we read it through, like, in this way before, because normally, I mean, if you just read, you can finish this book in usually like 4 hours or something.
Yeah,
like that.
I mean, if you really wanted to, this is an easy book to finish in one day. So the fact that we're taking 17 weeks to do it, no big deal.
Yeah, no. So, but I would say the thing that I've noticed is that, like, up until this point, we know that, like, Snape clearly doesn't like Harry. He's clearly kind of like, like needled him a couple of times. First day of class, there's like the moment with like the scar hurting, that type of thing. But for the most part, up until this point, though, we haven't had lots of other super major incidents where we're like kind of led to believe that Snape is like that nefarious. Like maybe he doesn't like Harry, but this is the chapter that's sort of like point your suspicion at Snape.
Yeah,
like,
they definitely really try and paint Snape as the bad guy. Like last chapter, he was headed towards the third floor corridor, and it's like, oh, and then maybe he was limping a little bit, but what is that enough to like cast suspicion on him or anything? Maybe just a little, but now it's getting very like look at Snape.
Yes. This feels like the chapter where like the sleight of hand is really occurring, and I would say not even so sleight of hand. It's sort of like Harry at this point in time is actively being interfered with, and even the fact that the chapter leads with like this little segment of Harry being out on the grounds and like reading from Quidditch Through the Ages and losing 5 points from Gryffindor, and then like Harry being like, well, I'm going to go try to get my book back, and discovering Snape receiving bandages from Filch of all people.
Oh my gosh, yeah, we'll get back to that part because that was so stupid. Like especially like this many parts parts about this chapter I feel like did not age well as like maybe more of the world became established.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to put it. Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, but let's do our normal thing. We can kind of skate through the chapter as we go.
Yeah.
Pick out all the stuff that kind of stands out to us and analyze as we do. So
we will. So I mean, first paragraph, Ben. Hagrid could be seen from the upstairs windows defrosting broomsticks on the Quidditch field.
if you're yeah.
Nothing about this sentence to me makes sense. 1, it sounds like Hagrid's doing magic, which he should not be allowed to do. 2, why are there broomsticks just left willy-nilly on the Quidditch field? 3, even if that's the case, why aren't you just bringing them inside? Like, not what is going on?
Why would I mean, this goes back to our question from last week where we talked about like the up thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like is there some type of ceremony attached to the game of Quidditch wherein the night before all players go and like drop their broomsticks in the place that they intend to, you know, like take off from or something like that? Like why would they be all left outside?
Yeah, no, I have no idea. To me, it just sounds like out on the Quidditch field, there's a rack of brooms that students can come just grab or something.
Maybe they're just like the school brooms.
But even then, like even later on, I think even in this book, there's like a section where it's like there's a broom shed.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, the other thing is that like broomsticks are made of wood,
right?
And like the idea of leaving anything wood related. So this is the thing, like the people maybe don't understand about wood in general is that like wood doesn't rot simply from water exposure. It rots when it's exposed to water and then dry temperatures and then water and then dry temperatures over and over and over again. But if you sink a log underwater, it doesn't decay. It's like this is how you get like petrified wood.
Right,
is from wood just sustaining underwater.
Also, presumably, all of these broomsticks are like very intentionally made as broomsticks for flight and have some amount of like impervious charms on them,
yes,
so that they would not be subject to the elements. Magic is at play, people.
Right.
Hagrid.
I'm curious, and I can't remember if this is a characteristic of the firebolt or not, but maybe it's got like an anti-icing spell on it.
I think so for like high altitudes.
For high altitudes, yeah. I believe it. I think it does, but I would have to fact check myself on that one. Mm-hmm. It also brought about I just because I was thinking about the because I highlighted the exact same sentence. Because I was thinking about broomsticks, it reminded me of a video we made once upon a time that was whether or not broomsticks have cores in the same way that wands do.
Yeah.
And I believe the conclusion that we came down to is they almost certainly need to have a core inside of them unless the enchantment is just something else entirely. But it feels like you're kind of channeling your magic through the broomstick a little bit, I think.
Right, like otherwise
it's just a piece of wood.
But like then there's the up thing though. It's like Harry says they're more like horses or something.
That's a good point.
Yeah, they can like sense fear, which does sound like wands. Like wands have a certain like intelligence or sentience about them.
Yeah.
That kind of sounds like it. So it was that sounds pretty plausible to me that they would have some kind of core. Because otherwise, like, is it just that wizards could pick up any stick with bristles on it and fly?
That's the question, because I mean, in like what we know, and I think what Ollivander tells us is that in Deathly Hallows, rather, I think is that like technically a witch or wizard could channel their magic through any object.
Yeah.
But like wands in particular are that much more capable of doing it and establish like an ongoing relationship with the wizard themselves. But to me, what that says, like if James Potter's wand again is made of mahogany and it's just a stick of mahogany, then it's just a stick. It doesn't have like the otherwise infused magical property that comes from the wand core.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it takes both to sort of like determine it as like a magical object. And so in my mind, the logic stands to reason with a broomstick. It's the same way. Like, I mean, you could go and pick up any, like broom from like a muggle broom, for example.
Yeah. Could they just pick up any muggle broom and fly on it?
It seems like on some level, like you maybe could. It would be highly inefficient, or like maybe like it couldn't even get you like physically off the ground, but like maybe you could channel like a little bit of lift,
right?
And
sure,
through it or something.
You could like hover or something,
right. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, not that it really matters one way or another, but I like to think that that there's cores tucked inside of the broomsticks.
I like that headcanon as well. Just moving just a little bit down the page, there it mentions Harry's nervous about the upcoming match, and it says if Gryffindor won, they would move up into second place in the House Championship, which is like an interesting sentence to me because so they're against Slytherin, and if they beat Slytherin, they'll move up into second behind who? Because like it is established that Slytherin is typically like at the end of the year, Slytherin
has been winning
the most points.
Cup.
They've won the cup the last 7 years in a row. So it's like presumably if they beat Slytherin, they'll move into second place behind Slytherin. I mean, I guess it's possible Hufflepuff or Ravenclaw is in first at this point.
I suppose that is possible. It's still early in the year. I mean, we're just inside of November, I think, at this point in time.
But either way, it doesn't. It also is curious because later on, like the specific amounts that you win by, like matter more to the house championship. So it's like if we win no matter what, we'll move up into second. Whereas if we lose, we won't. Because it sounds like if you like later on, there's like this whole chapter where it's like we need to be winning by 50 points, or maybe I don't know. But then this is in relation to the house championship. So it's like, do you get as many points for the house as you score in the game?
That's the thing, is that it seems like that would weight the House Cup drastically towards whichever team had the best Quidditch, or whichever house had the best Quidditch team, because even at the end of the book, I think that Slytherin has approximately 600 points, which is like what Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Neville are able to like overcome and take over with the win. But like if you win 3 Quidditch matches, that alone, just by catching the snitch, is 450 points.
Right. So that doesn't feel right.
That doesn't feel right.
I guess, okay. Here's what must be happening.
Okay.
Is that either at this point, Hufflepuff or Ravenclaw, I guess even Slytherin could be winning. It doesn't matter. That Gryffindor is presently in third place at the moment.
In the House Championship.
In the House Championship. And that by winning a Quidditch match, you earn a set number of points that is unrelated to how many points you actually score.
On the pitch.
For the house championship. Whereas then the Quidditch Cup matters how many points you actually scored in the game.
But I think that's more of like a tiebreaker type of situation, which like with only 4 teams seems plausible.
Yeah, there's only 6 matches all year.
Right, yeah. So it seems like...
So maybe it's like if Gryffindor wins, Gryffindor House will just get 50 points for having won.
Okay,
yeah. Something like that.
We don't know that for a verified fact, but to me that seems like the best interpretation of the information we have.
A set number that will move them into second place. So they're losing by whatever the difference is.
Yes, yeah. Okay.
All right. We figured that out, I think. Let's see. Next up, Harry has Quidditch Through the Ages, which, fun fact, is another, like, you can actually buy Quidditch Through the Ages. I think we had a copy of it when we were kids.
We did, yeah. So back in, like, the way back when version, there was both a copy, there were these, like, little, like, leaflet-looking books. They were kind of small, but we had both the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them by Newt Scamander, and then we also had Quidditch Through the Ages, which is written by, I thought it was in the book here somewhere. Anyway, but I can't remember exactly who it is offhand. But we did have both of these books as kids, and it was kind of fun and interesting just to like leaf through it. And obviously now in the present day, there's like much more bona fide versions of both.
Yes, there are. But I remember thinking that like even as kids, that like when we got these sort of like leaflet versions of the books, because like Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is one of Harry's textbooks, and it was always like Hermione read all of their textbooks cover to cover, and I was like, oh my gosh, what? Like, I don't think I ever read every page of a textbook I owned ever. But then it was like, oh, wizard textbooks are like 30 pages long. And they're like on paperback, like, oh, well, okay. Hermione's not seeming so impressive all of a sudden.
Right.
Yeah.
If anything, the other students is like, guys, they're like 30 pages.
Yeah, you're like, guys, come on. You could knock out like the entire course, the entire first year.
Yeah. Hermione has read all books, but they need for their year. And the books are 5 pages. A student could finish the course in a month. Maybe 2 months. And the books alone, read the books alone.
It's with the textbooks in like an afternoon if you really tried.
Right. Yeah. Just crack those books open.
Crack them in, guys.
Either way, I did underline the 700 ways of committing a Quidditch foul.
Yeah.
Just 'cause I thought that was a fun fact. Oh, on Quidditch Through the Ages, this was my original thought. I remember when Fantastic Beasts was announced as a film series.
Yeah.
Is I was like, oh, does that mean that like the next one will be Quidditch Through the Ages? Like for whatever reason, that is like the only thing that made sense to me is that like
because those 2 books came out together, and one of them's style movie. And how great would it be to have like a Wizarding World sports movie?
That would be really cool.
Yeah.
I would be all in for like the ultimate underdog story.
I know.
Of like I've been watching Welcome to Wrexham.
Yeah.
About like sort of like League 5, like like Welsh football,
Right, sure,
you know, English football, where they're like a sub league, the Champions League, I think is what it's called. And like they're trying to like get promoted and work their way up the the ladder and stuff like that. So yeah, I would be all for Quidditch Through the Ages,
Yeah.
like film series.
I know, like you don't even need it to be like some crazy dark wizard, big world threatening problem or anything. Just like it's just
Quidditch.
a sports epic.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's just about it's like Miracle on Ice, but brooms in hail or something.
Yeah, I love it. Or we can just call it Quidditch Through the Ages. That's
Quidditch
fine.
Through the Ages. Yeah.
Okay, I love it. Yeah, we get the reference in Quidditch Through the Ages that let's see here. Most serious Quidditch accidents seem to happen to Seekers in particular, which I feel like they really like harken on.
Yeah.
Which, as we know, as Harry goes through his years of playing Quidditch, he certainly does sustain some injuries. But they don't always really seem Quidditch related necessarily. He just gets harmed. I mean, even in this very chapter, like someone is actively trying to buck him off of his broom.
Yeah, like he rarely gets injured
exactly.
in Quidditch because of the game. It's like because of interference.
Because then
because Dementors show up, or because the bludger is literally cursed to hunt him.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Seriously.
But then we get the let's see here. People rarely died playing Quidditch. Referees had been known to vanish and turn up months later in the Sahara Desert.
Yeah.
What I think is interesting is like they didn't say there was an instance where a referee showed up years later or months later in the Sahara Desert. It's just like when they vanish, they go to the Sahara Desert.
It's like it's happened on multiple occasions. Referees have disappeared and shown up at the Sahara Desert. We don't know how it happens.
We don't know how it happens.
Yeah,
Okay,
that to me reads like whoever was making them disappear was the same culprit over and over.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's not just like Sahara Desert spell. Get out of here, ref.
Okay.
And he's gone.
And why not?
Yep.
Then we get our first glimpse of Hermione's like bright bluebell flame, which
Yep.
I feel like she uses. I think on numerous occasions throughout the saga.
Yeah, she absolutely does. Yeah, it's still like one of her little signature spells here. It is baffling to me that like they just have a little fire outside. One, that if it's so cold that they are outside, why not just go inside? Like they're just standing. They're not even standing talking. They're all standing, not facing each other, with their backs to the fire. But then there also says like they were sure it wouldn't be allowed, and I'm like, why would it not be allowed at a school of magic to have a little magic fire?
Well, I mean, you're not supposed to do magic in the corridors. We know that from like the very beginning.
I
So,
guess.
I mean, this is outside, but this is like one of those things where it's like yeah, it really does seem like using magic almost just about anywhere is pretty much forbidden.
Yeah, like excuse me, unless you are learning how to do the magic, don't do it.
Yeah, either in the comfort of your own homes as a trained adult or in class, but that's it.
That's it.
Which I know sounds ridiculous, but that's also
Yeah,
probably
but
like driving a
so
car. It's like you can
ridiculous.
either do it while you're
Why?
training specifically, or like as a licensed adult, a licensed adult.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to be fair, I guess that actually does track. Either which way, yeah. So they're not supposed to have it, which I guess demonstrates just a little bit that Hermione is like kind of a bit more open to bending the rules.
I guess so. Yeah, it does say that too. That she was Hermione had become a bit more relaxed about breaking rules since Harry and Ron had saved her from the mountain troll, and she was much nicer for it.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
There you
There
go.
you go.
After that, though, we do get the discovery that like Snape is specifically limping, and they're kind of like, oh, I wonder what's going on with that, which then obviously promptly comes up like 2.5 paragraphs later, where Harry's back up in the Gryffindor common room, and he's just like, man, I really just want to like distract myself with some good old fashioned Quidditch through the ages.
Yeah, I know. It's just this whole thing seems contrived. It's like Harry was outside and Snape came and took his book. Harry wanted his book back, so he came and discovered Snape.
Contrived is the right word.
Yes.
Yeah. It's set up specifically just so that Harry has a like this feels like the bit that like it's just like how do I kind of progress this this plot forward a little bit? I've got it.
I know. We need Harry to be really suspicious of Snape. So what if he sees him trying to fix his wounds, and then it's like, yeah. So Harry walks in trying to get the book back. God, I love Harry going up to the staff room, knocks, no one's there, and he's like, perhaps Snape had left the book in there. I was like, why? Sure, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember there
It
being
was
like a
worth a try.
teacher's lounge.
But why did he think of just going to Snape's office? That would be better than going to the forbidden teacher's house. But I guess if it's blocked for idiots, then fine by me. But if it isn't, then why didn't you just go to his office?
Going through like elementary school and stuff like that. Like I don't even know if I ever knew where they were, but I feel like the existence of the lounge itself was it's like, yeah, that's
Some
a
like
thing.
mythical, magical place.
Right, but the other thing too, to me, about Hogwarts in particular, is that near as I can tell, all of the professors just simply live in the castle.
Yeah.
And so the
It's
idea of them
different.
ever going to like the teacher's lounge just seems, maybe it's not that far fetched. Like, you got to go and have a place to have a cup of job or something.
Yeah, somewhere to
but-
microwave your fish lunch.
Okay, all right, now here's a question. Which Hogwarts professor is microwaving fish lunch?
Oh my gosh, who is it?
Yeah, I want you to
Trelawney.
explain.
Trelawney.
Comes down from the tower and is like, "Hello." I said it would
Oh
use
my
the
god,
microwave.
Trelawney.
Everyone's like, "We don't even have a microwave, Sybil.
Yeah.
Electronics don't work here."
McGonagall is just like I could see McGonagall knowing that there is a microwave in the teacher's lounge and actively hating it.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
who put this here?
And no, I'm not having it. I'm not having it. Anyway, what Harry discovers upon entering the teacher's lounge is that Snape and Filch are in there alone, and Snape is holding his robe above his knees, and Filch is handing him bandages.
Yeah.
Even the fact that Snape is like openly talking to Filch, saying, "How are you supposed to keep your eyes on all three heads at once?" It's like this doesn't sound like Snape at all. This is the least Snape sentence I've ever heard.
I
ever.
know,
Yeah,
like
I
nothing,
would-
like nothing
you
about
talk to
this
Billy. What
sentence,
you want?
nothing about this situation to me makes sense. One, that Snape and Filch are hanging out together at
Yes.
all. There you go. It's
Yeah.
already weird if Harry just walked in and it was Snape and Filch. Be like, "What do you think about the students today?" "Oh, I hate them again." "I do." Like they're just
We're
not
such
hanging
best
out.
buds.
I know. Two, that specifically what they're doing is changing Snape's bandages in the staff lounge of all places. Like, why are they doing this in Snape's office or whatever? Because
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
clearly trying not to be seen, and this is a place where any teacher could walk in.
Right. Alternatively, just simply the hospital wing.
Well, I guess you could argue he doesn't want like the injury to be discovered by maybe the other teachers or something, and like Madame Pomfrey would know then.
You think in the teacher's lounge is the best place to keep?
That's exactly what I'm saying,
yeah.
though.
It's like yeah. I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but just yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, just I don't think.
So there's that.
Okay.
On top of that, like later, I mean, this is another one of those situations where it's like maybe the world just wasn't as established yet or something. But like later on, when Harry hits Draco with Sectum Sempra, this like dark magic spell that like slices him with a sword, Snape arrives on the scene and is able to heal the spell like instantly. And this is like a dark magic spell, like at once with his wand is able to like save Draco's life. This is Snape is suffering a dog bite apparently for several days and hasn't been able to heal it like himself magically. Like either
Well, Snape did invent Sectum Sempra, so maybe he knows the
That's
counter
true.
curse.
I suppose you could argue that he knows the counter curse, but like Snape seems like a good enough wizard that he could heal a simple like bite wound.
He is
Yeah,
who Dumbledore
he
goes to
too.
even
Just
after the he
clearly.
puts on the Horcrux.
Yeah, he knows how to do that.
Yeah.
He knows how to solve that. So there's that. All I can assume, all I can surmise from this is that Fluffy's like bite contains some sort of like absolutely horrendous venom in it.
Ooh,
You know,
kind of
like-
like Basilisky.
Exactly, like Basilisky or like Nagini or something. Because like
yeah,
Mr.
yeah.
Weasley gets bit by Nagini, and it's like, yeah, he's like injured for a while until they could finally figure out how to heal it back up.
And that's healers at St. Mungo's, people
Yeah.
whose actual career is like specifically doing that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is my new. That's the only thing that makes sense to
Yeah.
me is that if Fluffy
Fluffy
bites you, it is
should
like
have
more than
it.
it is like a
It's
cursed
bad.
bite of
It's like a
of
bad
sorts.
bite. Yeah, I bet Newt
I
could
mean,
do it.
he's-
Yeah.
it's-
Commander.
Well, of course, Newt could do it. He's the man.
But he's in retirement, so anyway, so Snape obviously gets extremely mad at Harry for being there, for witnessing this particular thing. But like that's the other thing that's happening inside of this chapter is that we're really starting to, I mean, because we don't even have that much book left. The Golden Trio needs enough information to start tugging on the strings that will start to pull it all
Yeah.
together. So Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry. The last thing I feel like that doesn't make sense about Snape's bite is like, why was he trying? Like, okay, so because Harry says he tried to get past that 3-headed dog at Halloween. That's where he was going when we saw him, and it's like that's true. That is where he was going. But in like, why was Snape facing Fluffy? You know, like what was he doing in there? Like,
the door.
why was he in a situation to get like bitten at all? Like, because we know Quirrell didn't get past Fluffy. It wasn't like Snape was like, oh man, I got to follow Quirrell down the trap door and get past this dog too.
Well, you don't think I mean, my interpretation as you asked the question is that Quirrell did get past Fluffy.
No, we know we didn't because Hagrid hasn't let slip about the music yet.
The music.
Yeah,
You're right.
so
You're
yeah,
right.
so Quirrell doesn't know how to get past Fluffy. So clearly, like he's there to cut Quirrell off, but does he just like go past the door and like wait for him or something?
Yeah,
Like, why not wait outside the door?
There's not a particularly good reason why Snape would have to face Fluffy in this particular instance.
Yeah.
Named App of the Year and Editor's Choice. Available on Windows, iPad, and Mac, Liquid Text goes beyond reading and note-taking, letting you review documents faster, find facts effortlessly, see the connections other people miss, and save time. Go past the limits of paper with Liquid Text.
Yeah,
Right?
that's a good point. The other kind of irony here is that he is struggling with a multi-faced foe.
Yeah.
Which Quirrell is also a multi-faced foe.
Oh, that's true. That's funny. Yeah.
So kinda, like, I mean, the specific thing is how are you supposed to keep your eyes on all 3 heads at once? It's like I don't even know. I've never caught that before, but like I almost wonder if that's supposed to be like a little nod, like more than one face.
More than one face. Be
Yeah.
on the lookout.
Okay. I
Yeah.
like it.
I also like Harry says, I bet my broomstick he let that troll in. I'm just like, you'd have lost that bet, sir. Hand
Yeah.
over that broomstick.
I know. Although he's pretty close to the correct assessment.
He is.
Someone let in the troll
Yeah.
to make a diversion. It wasn't Snape in particular. But yeah, so then anyway, Harry starts to kind of like do the thing that Harry sometimes does, which is almost setting aside, his daily high school existence in exchange for starting to wonder about like the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Like what else is going on? Because he's basically struggling with his nerves about Quidditch, and essentially ends up like being distracted, saying Harry went to bed with his head buzzing with the same question, which is like what's he after and what's that dog guarding? So this is just like another one of those sort of like innate inside of Harry situations where it's just sort of like like as much as he might love Quidditch, it's like the thing that can distract him from Quidditch is justice.
Right. Yeah. It's like, I got to figure out what Snape is up to.
Yep. What is going on? So anyway, the next morning kicks off, and we know that Harry is kind of having a very similar morning to what Ron's first Quidditch match looks like.
Same as Ron later on.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like when Ron is eventually, is it in year 5? Yeah, it must be year 5.
Yeah.
That Ron's really nervous about Quidditch. It seems like they almost have. I'd be curious to compare the passages because I think that they are like darn near the same, or at least the sentiment is very much the same.
Yeah,
One of the things I noticed as we scroll down here is specifically we get a line from Seamus that says, "Harry, you need your strength. Seekers are always the ones who get clobbered by the other team." And then literally the next paragraph we get a line about Dean that says, Ron and Hermione join Neville, Seamus, and Dean, the West Ham fan, up in the top row.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like interesting because I feel like Dean does ultimately become like a bigger part of the story, but like it almost feels like at this point in time, like the fact that like we're being reminded, like, oh, do you remember Dean? He's the one
He's the West Ham fan. That's like his defining characteristic.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I tend to think of like and maybe this is like Parvati and Lavender sort of like are like a couplet.
Yeah.
Seamus and Dean seem like they sort of like are always representing kind of similar like space inside of like the
Gryffindor Tower.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was kind of interesting. We also get maybe we're not there yet, so I'll save my next thought there.
It says the whole school seemed to be out in the stands. I always think it's funny that whenever there's a Quidditch match that Harry's playing in, it's like the whole school was there. But like at 0 point ever is it like, do you hear about Harry, Ron, and Hermione going to watch the Hufflepuff Ravenclaw match?
I know.
Like you never hear about them attending non-Gryffindor matches.
It's so true. It's so
Yeah.
true. Yeah, it's like there's literally no instances I feel like ever where we get almost anything other than like a score recap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, flattened by Hufflepuff in that last match.
As we move forward though, we get the the speech from Oliver Wood.
Yes, I totally marked down the exact same thing. It's
Yes.
a good speech.
Great speech. What does he even end up saying? Like, okay, men and women, this is it, the big one, the one we've been waiting for. And then
Yeah, Fred and George like basically immediately interrupt him.
Fred says, we know Oliver's speech by heart. We were on the team last year. This is one of the things I wrote a little note down about because I'm pretty sure Charlie was supposed to be at school last year and was Seeker, which means that Oliver possibly was like a underclassman captain of Charlie Weasley, like renowned Quidditch Seeker.
I think it's been like 2 years since Charlie was there.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we worked that out.
Okay.
At one point. But like, yeah, you're right. Like it says, we memorized his speech, and it's like the speech is this. Had they not been interrupted, the entire speech would have been this. Okay, man, this is the big one. The one we've all been waiting for. This is the best team Gryffindor's had in years. We're going to win. I know it. That would have been the whole speech. Like, no wonder you memorized it. It was one line.
Yeah, there's not a lot to say there.
That's not, like, it's not a speech. And it's like, to me, I was like, Oliver, be original, man. You're using the same one sentence speech every game. Come on.
Right. Maybe you need to work a little more gusto into firing up your team there before the big game.
I know.
That was the other one that I said is basically this is the best team Gryffindor's had in years. We're going to win it. And it seems like it was just about the same team. I did write down Harry instead of Charlie, so maybe if Charlie had been 2 years out, that would make sense. But we do also learn that Alicia Spinnet was a last year reserve. So,
I noticed that too because I was like, "There's no reserves on the team right now."
Right,
and it's interesting that it seems like whoever was the Seeker last year must have been a 7th year. Because it's not like, it's that, you don't find out otherwise who it was.
No, that's a good point.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I wrote down at the end of the chapter as well was just that, like, we know that Malfoy takes over as Slytherin Seeker in year 2.
Yeah.
Which could mean that during Harry's first ever Quidditch match as a first year, he was going up against the 7th year.
Oh, it could mean that, yeah.
Yeah.
It also would not surprise me if Lucius was just like, I don't care if there's a Seeker already, get him off the team.
That's why I say, I feel like it's conceivable, or it's just the Malfoys just throwing their weight around as for always, because they might do that. On the note of what year everybody is, there's just another one of those like little changes that has been made in the reprints since the original recording, because I both read and listened to the chapter. Marcus Flint in the audiobook is referred to as a 6th year. However, in the book, he's a 5th year. I think the thing about this is that Marcus Flint is still the Slytherin captain all the way up to Harry's 3rd year. And if he was a 6th year, that would make him an 8th year.
Yeah, he failed out, Had to redo a year.
Yeah. Just kind of sticking around.
So I love Lee Jordan's commentary of the Quidditch matches. That's always one of my favorite things.
Oh, same here. Yep, I wrote that down as well.
Yep, I thought this is very interesting, or not even super interesting, but like he says, and the quaffle was taken immediately by Angelina Johnson of Gryffindor. What an excellent chaser that girl is, and rather attractive too. Which I love that. It's like clearly, it makes it sound like Lee has like a little bit of a crush on Angelina, which is totally great. But I think it's funny though that he doesn't ask her to the Yule Ball later on.
That's so true.
And they're.
Why doesn't he ask her to you ball you for if he's a crush on her? That's an odd decision.
Time, like Fred basically forgets to do it for a while.
Yeah, and he's just sort of like, hey, do you want to go? And she's like, I'm in.
Yeah, I guess so. And I'm like, Lee, where were you, dude?
Come on, man. Come on.
How was your chance?
I know.
Oh, well.
No, I do love Lee Jordan. This was another one that I felt like when Dad was reading us the books when we were a little kid. I feel like Dad had fun with like the Lee Jordan commentary, but there's like so many like good moments, and I love the fact that McGonagall is like literally standing there over his shoulder, and I can just imagine hearing McGonagall's voice sort of like distantly echoing through the stadium
through the stands
as she's like chastising him for everything he keeps saying.
She's used to this by now.
Yes, she's like, I know what I'm gonna have to do. Mm-hmm. Then we get the let's see here. What do they say about Fred and George? But he's blocked by a second bludger sent this way by Fred or George Weasley. Can't tell which. Nice play by the Gryffindor beater. Anyway,
yeah.
It's all such good stuff.
And it's like their best friend too.
I know.
Like,
yeah.
Whoever.
Yeah. Which is always one of those things that like, because you're watching this through the lens of like Team Gryffindor, it's always like you sort of love that Lee Jordan is the commentator. But like if it was like a Slytherin commentator, it would be like the worst.
Yeah.
I'd be like, what? No.
What do you mean you can't tell which one?
Somebody needs to put a stop to this. It's ridiculous.
No good.
Anyway,
Yeah,
then we scroll down a little bit, and we get a change in perspective. This was actually, I got halfway through this thought earlier and I changed gears, where we're actually watching the plot unfold from Hermione, Ron, and Hagrid's like version of things through the stands. So it's like one of those rare instances where like you're not seeing it through Harry's perspective.
Right.
But then what Hagrid says is, been watching from my hut, said Hagrid, patting a large pair of binoculars around his neck. But it isn't the same as being in the crowd. No sign of the snitch yet, eh? And this is like one of those things where like the game just started. So does he mean like he's been watching Quidditch from his hut like in years past, or like since 30 seconds ago when the game started, he managed to like watch some of the game from his hut, where he then blitzed his way.
Like, what have you been watching? Only like one thing has happened. There's if you've been watching from your hut, then you watched them catch the quaffle and then started walking, at which point presumably you weren't watching, because it's like, I even wrote that. It said, been watching from my hut. I wrote, how?
Yeah, I said like before today, or...
Yeah. Like, whatever. Hagrid's in the stands. That's the point. No need to justify his existence there, I don't think.
Yeah, none whatsoever.
Yeah, although scrolling down, I thought, I just thought this was like an interesting thing, was Harry thinks he sees the golden snitch, but he says once he caught a flash of gold, but it was just a reflection from one of the Weasleys' wristwatches. And I was like, well, it is interesting to me that the Weasleys, who are apparently super poor, one of them owns a gold wristwatch and is wearing it during a sports match.
A sports match.
Yeah.
You know? I mean,
during a sports ball.
Who doesn't wear their favorite Rolex during a sports play?
Like, you're wearing a metal watch in the middle of a game? That seems like,
it actually,
I don't know.
This feels like one of those things like they tell you not to wear like flashy jewelry while snorkeling and stuff like that, because it can sometimes like signal to like a barracuda or something that like, it's like, hey, that's like a shiny fish over there. But it actually feels like wearing a gold watch in particular could be actively distracting in the exact way that it is in this scene.
It does, yeah.
The other thing that's kind of interesting about that, and not to, I mean, this is totally just nitpicking. I'm not actually upset about this particular detail, but we know that wizards typically are gifted a gold watch once they come of age. It's like a tradition. So like we see this happen, and the Weasleys are obviously, they have not come of age yet. So I mean, the fact that they have a gold watch, I mean, you could just have like a gold plated watch. Like, people have gold watches.
Sure, absolutely.
I have very inexpensive, or at the very least, Alice has very inexpensive gold watches at our house that are not made of like proper gold.
Right.
They're gold colored.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could have that. It doesn't feel like in the wizarding world they have gold colored things. It's just like, it's gold. Gold is gold.
Gold is gold. Yeah. Oh, one of the things that I thought was kind of interesting is that, again, going back to Lee Jordan's commentating, it says Chaser Pusey ducks 2 bludgers, 2 Weasleys, and Chaser Bell, and speeds toward. Wait a moment, was that the snitch? And this is like, it's like, man. Why has Lee Jordan not been on the team if he, as the commentator, is spotting the snitch?
I know, yeah.
It's very impressive.
He's all over it. And then I think he says that, and then it says, the chasers seem to have forgotten what they were supposed to be doing as they hung in midair to watch. It's like, I was just like, guys, that's no excuse. Amateur hour over here.
I know, seriously.
You cannot be distracted by the seeker seeing the snitch. You got to keep playing. You got to play through that.
Call yourself future professional athletes.
I know, exactly. You know who doesn't get distracted is Marcus Flint later on. He's like, hey, something's happening. Doesn't matter. I'm just going to score 5 goals real quick while no one's looking, which do count.
Yeah, I know. But if nobody's looking, then how does anybody know that he's scoring goals?
Madam Hooch. I was like, as soon as Harry's broom starts bucking, it's like the whole stadium is watching this. And I'm like, what is Madam Hooch doing? Clearly something is wrong with Harry's broom, and she's like, you know what, he's gonna sort that out. I need to make sure I'm keeping an eye on that quaffle. Everyone keeping score. Flint, you got it. Score. And also, like, apparently, is there just no reset between scores? I guess.
I know. I have the exact same thought. Like, is he just throwing it through the hoop, running to the ground, picking it back up, running in the air, throwing it through the hoop, running to the ground, picking it back up? The thing,
and then Oliver's just sitting there like,
it's like, come on, Oliver, man. It's supposed to be the best team we've had in years.
I know.
Yeah.
All these guys just sitting ducks out there.
Yeah. I think in general, the real point is that Harry is never, ever, 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 ever the benefactor of an adult being present.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like always, like, Malfoy will be like picking on him, and somehow Snape will come over and like punish Harry for it.
Yeah.
Or if McGonagall is present, then it'll be like she'll only catch it once Harry pulls his wand out.
Yeah.
And be like, Potter, what are you doing?
I know.
And it's just like, oh, poor Harry.
I know.
It's just like, gosh, if anybody had been here 10 seconds sooner, you would have seen he was picking on me.
Yeah, but seriously, Madam Hooch. Hagrid of all people, who can't even ride brooms, is sitting there telling Ron and Hermione that like no one can interfere with the broomstick unless it's dark magic or whatever. Like Hagrid knows enough about brooms that something dark is going on. Madam Hooch, the broom expert and flying instructor and referee of this match, does nothing, even though it is super clear, even to Hagrid, that something bad is happening.
That's the thing about this too. It's like, I mean, we said it like at the beginning of the chapter, but it's like the whole school showed up for this particular thing. Like, of all of the occasions to try to attack Harry, it's like you are literally doing it with every available witness,
except apparently Dumbledore. Because he's going to show up to the next match, and they're all like, "Oh, good thing Dumbledore will be there. Snape will never try to attack Harry now."
That's a good
which
point.
kind of implies that Dumbledore is not at this one.
Right. Dumbledore, come on, man.
Yeah.
How do you miss this?
How are you missing this?
Anyway.
Yeah,
no big deal. No big deal. But yeah, so anyway, as we go forward, I talked about this a little bit, like I think going back to flying lessons, but I think in the movie in particular, they show Neville's broom bucking in a very similar capacity to like what happens to Harry's, which I feel like almost like sets up this idea that like, oh, maybe brooms are just like malfunctioning and like Neville's just not very good at flying a broom. So like when it's happening to Harry, it's like, it's his first time. Like maybe he's just struggling up there. But like that doesn't happen in the book. So yeah, you're right. It does seem like the type of thing that should have stood out in a much more obvious way.
It does seem like that. Thankfully, Hermione is sitting across the stands from the teachers and notices it and decides it is up to her to solve this problem. And I mean, I want to know why Hermione is not running for wizard track, because Hermione is sitting in apparently 50-foot tall stands and sees across the pitch Snape mouthing the counter jinx, or what she believes is the jinx.
Yep.
And she runs to the ground from 5 stories up, across the pitch, and then up 5 flights of stairs.
That's 10 flights of stairs
That's
for
10
those
flights
keeping
of
track.
stairs. And I'm like, and this is like just like an 11-year-old girl. Like, even if she is sprinting, like apparently she doesn't go across the field either. You know, you got to think she goes around. Like she's not going to be allowed on the field.
Right. Yeah. Most likely. Although Madam Hooch isn't paying attention.
That's
to
true.
anything,
She's just like Flint is scoring. And as I think about it, though, the fact that it only scores 5, kind of embarrassing. You should be way more than that.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, she apparently makes it all the way over, down, over, back up, lights Snape's robes on fire, and then it takes an additional 30 seconds for him to notice.
The 30 seconds?
30 seconds? Yeah.
I feel like if we were to give you a 30-second moment of silence, you would be like blown away. 30 seconds is too long.
It is way too long.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, that it should have stopped the moment that she knocks Quirrell over, which
That's
happens 30 seconds well before, which means there's like 30 seconds of Snape just continuously undoing the jinx before he notices it, and apparently he finishes doing it and then just happens to be at the same time that he notices that he's on fire.
Yeah, and that's probably a fair point.
Yeah.
So maybe this is the type of thing where like whatever Quirrell is doing, like you almost imagine like that they're both casting like Jinx and Counter Jinx simultaneously, and like one sort of like it's kind of like a different sort of duel, if you will. But maybe it's the type of thing where like Snape continued to keep his eyes fixed on the ear and was continuing to like basically like unwind whatever Quirrell had already done.
Right.
But again, as you learn more about Snape, it does seem like the type of thing that Snape just would have been able to like absolutely like dismantle. Because one of the things that I will always credit Snape for is I do think he's a super powerful wizard.
Except at healing his leg.
Yeah, he was
But again, we covered that. You know?
Yeah, it's fluffy.
It's fluffy.
It's that fluffy venom.
It's 3 dog saliva.
Yeah.
It just it really gets into your bloodstream.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're right. Let's see here. So then what do we have next?
Then Harry swallows the snitch.
Yeah, okay. This was the thing that I think stood out to me the most about this entire chapter. Actually, was just simply how quickly following Hermione's interference that.
So this is how I like to think about coding. Coding is writing, but it's not just math and numbers. If I have a song that I want to write, I can write the song and you can hear.
Harry just like in my mind, I feel like I have repainted the picture that like Harry still patrols and like, you know, him and the Slytherin Seeker like duking it out, trying to figure out who can like get to this like the snitch the fastest. But it's basically just like his broom is being jinxed. And then the moment that it's over, he goes into a dive and swallows the snitch.
Yeah, just like on accident. Like,
yeah.
This is one where maybe the movie did it a little bit better, where they pull out of the dive and Harry is broom surfing like a boss,
and then
leans a little too far forward and accidentally swallows it, even though he was about to grab it. This just sounds like he saw it, was like, "Hey, there it is." Got it. Did we win?
Excellent.
Did we win?
Excellent reenactment. Although that being said, Flint is saying he didn't catch it. He nearly swallowed it as like a counter. It's like, Flint, you can't possibly think it makes a difference.
Yeah, he's holding it in his hand now.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this would be like if like a wide receiver in football managed to somehow like, in fact, I think this has even been like a thing before where like a quarterback threw the ball and it got stuck in somebody's like face mask.
Yeah,
you know, it's like, if it didn't hit the ground, I mean, you know,
it's still in play.
It's still in play, yeah.
Still in play.
Yeah, I mean, but he got it in his hands eventually.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the kind of big thing about the fact that Harry catches it with his mouth ends up being super vital to the discovery of how to get the hidden message from the snitch, from Dumbledore.
You know what's great about this is that Dumbledore uses this snitch as a way to make sure that the Ministry is unable to open the snitch and recover the stone inside.
Right.
Even if they go and do Harry in person and let him physically touch it. But you know what? Dumbledore wasn't even at this match to watch it happen.
Somebody told him.
Someone told him, he's like, I have an idea.
I have an app.
Yeah, it's how he was Dumbledore so how he know how Harry College has to be that someone told him how Harry College for his little thing to work.
I know what's gonna work. I'll put it in my will.
I'm gonna put it in my diary for a rainy day.
Yeah.
It'll be great.
It's good.
This is gonna work out so well because they'll forget the way it played out, and then when they remember, it's gonna be like, oh, that's right. Mm-hmm. And then all the readers will be like, oh my gosh, I remember that moment.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then they leave the Quidditch pitch where Harry is a hero for the first time, doing a great job. So proud of him. They go to Hagrid's hut where they have a strong cup of tea. And basically you start to kind of get like this first major glimpse at how much the staff seems to back Dumbledore's belief that Snape is in fact trustworthy.
Yeah.
Because we also eventually know that, like, even McGonagall, I think in Deathly Hallows says, like you know, he like Dumbledore always trusted Snape. He said that there was an ironclad reason to do so, like, which sort of suggests that, like, the teachers are always like, yeah, we get where you're coming from, but we can't say that out loud.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
like, yeah, we get why you suspect Snape of everything. We do too, but like we trust Dumbledore and Dumbledore trusts Snape, and if so facto, that's
just
sort
gotta
of
have to roll with it.
Right. So, you know, for years and years and years, Harry will have this issue with both Snape and Malfoy, where he's just always suspecting them, and nobody ever seems to believe him. Which
For the most part, he's wrong
That's just
until he's right.
He's right. We also get like a bit more of the big information dumps that are going to kind of get us closer towards Harry, Ron, and Hermione starting to like put the pieces of the bigger picture puzzle together, which is learning about Fluffy, the three-headed dog, which of course Hagrid has one off of a Greek chappie he met in the pub, or bought him off of. Yeah, that's right.
Greek chappie.
This is kind of interesting. Again, going back to the film just a little bit, because I think in the movie he says it's an Irish chap. Which is
really?
kind of like specifically a Cerberus. Is it the right? Cerberus, yeah. Is like a Greek mythological like beast.
Yeah, I mean Cerberus is like it's not like I don't know if it's like a breed of dog. I think it's a specific dog that guards like the gates to the underworld for Hades.
Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean the fact that it's Greek in particular is like a notable like attribute of this.
Yeah, it's part of Greek mythology.
Yeah, but so the fact that like they changed.
Yeah, why did they change it from Greek to Irish chap? Because Greek would make more sense since it's a Serbius, versus an elf.
It to Irish in the film is almost like, did you guys miss the reference? Like, it was Greek
Right.
for a reason.
Yeah, that was
yeah,
no
that
other
was
reason
yeah.
to change it.
Anyway, yeah.
Oh, this is also, that's one of those things where sometimes people ask what happens to Fluffy after this story, because it does seem like Fluffy just sort of disappears for no reason.
Yeah.
And Fluffy is sent back to Greece.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the explanation.
That is the
that's-
explanation.
That's where Fluffy ends up going. Anyway, so then there's the like trying to steal what Hagrid clearly knows more than probably is strictly speaking safe.
Yeah.
If you're Dumbledore, and he lets leak the bit of information that what they're guarding is between Professor Dumbledore and Nicholas Flamel.
This is one of those where I wish I could read the books for the first time again to see if I would notice that Nicholas Flamel had already been mentioned.
I know.
Like back on the Chocolate Frog card, because even if you remembered it and flipped back and were like, oh, Nicholas Flamel, look, he's right here. They already talked about it. It just says like alchemy, so you sort of also have to know
Yeah, but
enough about alchemy
but you
to do
don't
it.
know
Also,
about
if you're really savvy, it's the title of the book. So, so maybe you could have pieced it together from that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like at this point in time, as you're reading the book, you are now like, I would say, let's see, maybe like 70% of the way through the story, and nobody has really mentioned whatever this Philosopher's or Sorcerer's Stone
Yeah.
is supposed to be.
Right.
So it does feel like anybody worth their salt should be like, I bet that's what it is.
I bet it's the Philosopher's Stone.
Yeah.
I guess that's it doesn't it feels like maybe isn't the title a little spoilery for figuring out what it is, and it's like, nope, turns out it's not.
Right.
Yeah, they just don't mention it. I love how Hagrid reasons, like his reasons for why it can't be Snape. He says Snape's a Hogwarts teacher, he knew nothing of the sort. And it's like, what is interesting is that he is
But you could be Hogwarts teacher and still be a dickhead. Like, you could still be a dick. So technically, he still could be injured, even if he's a Hogwarts teacher. Like, if your Voldemort protecting it, then you know how to beat all the other ones.
actually correct about Snape, but his reasoning is very incorrect, because it is Quirrell and he is a Hogwarts professor and he would do something of the sort.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's like one of those where. But again, I mean, I think this is
That's
where
my
Hagrid
point.
places so much trust in Dumbledore, where Hagrid would just be like, "There's no way in the world Dumbledore would ever hire somebody who would do something this wrong."
Right.
Like, and I think that's just like Hagrid's standing belief. And again, as we go forward, what we'll know is that like Dumbledore does know that Quirrell is up to no good.
Yeah.
And this is like where you can start
Yeah,
really
but
touching
he
the edges
knows
of
he's
the
up to
concept
no
of Dumbledore's big plan properly, which is that like the first year of Harry's schooling in particular, it largely feels like Dumbledore knows the prophecy. He pretty much knows what Harry's up against. He's always believed that Voldemort will eventually come back, and that Harry's entry into the wizarding world is essentially going to be the catalyst that will ultimately probably spark the return of Voldemort. So it pretty much seems like Dumbledore, as a betting man, as somebody who makes particularly good guesses,
Yeah.
pretty much knows what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think even in our version of Dumbledore's big plan, we possibly included the belief that maybe even the reason that Hagrid in particular knows such specific details or collects the Philosopher's Stone while he's with Harry, while Harry's going to collect his school supplies, it all comes back to the eventual line or belief on Harry's behalf that Dumbledore basically thought Harry deserved to have a go at it if he so desired.
Right. It's like he wanted him to piece it together. It's like, I can't imagine Dumbledore knew enough to know that Voldemort was living on Quirrell's head, because
Yeah,
if
I don't
Dumbledore
think
knew
he
exactly
knew
where
that
Voldemort
much.
was, it feels like he just tries to take him out.
It does. It seems that way. I mean, that's a good point, but I think that there's something to the tune of the neither can live while the other survives. One of them has to defeat the other effectively.
Right.
So I mean, it could be the type of thing where Dumbledore's pretty much when it comes down to it, it has to be Harry.
Right.
All what I have to do is prepare Harry. It can't be anybody else. Like I can try to interfere, but the prophecy dictates that I won't defeat him.
succeed. Yeah,
exactly. So it's
Yeah,
like, if Dumbledore's smart enough to put enough faith in the prophecy in this particular way, it's like it's up to him. It has to be Harry.
He does tell Harry, I think it might be this book, it might be the next one, that there's like, if we can delay him coming back over and over and over and over, maybe he'll never come back or something.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, so it's like, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, that might be the diary, though. I can't remember.
Yeah.
I can't remember for sure or not. But the diary is also the thing that finally tips Dumbledore off to the fact that what Voldemort is using is Horcruxes.
Yes,
so
yeah.
That's probably a piece where like Dumbledore didn't know how, up until this moment, Voldemort was achieving immortality.
Right.
How and why he wasn't destroyed in the first place. So
Right.
that is a big tipping point in the overall saga in terms
Yes.
of what Dumbledore knows in the information. So
Yeah.
anyway, but yeah, I mean, I think it's a fun chapter. It's definitely got like some clunky bits to it, but I do appreciate it's kind of like I think about like the movie Encanto and how every one of the songs that comes about like helps progress the plot so nicely. This feels like a really good situation where like Harry experiencing the wizarding world in this form of playing Quidditch is also like the plot moves forward at the same time. So
Yeah.
it's not just like a throwaway chapter where it's like, Harry plays a sport in this chapter.
Right. It's like it does a good job of establishing like more world building, and like this is the pacing in the first book is very fun. Like every chapter has something fun happening. It's like because there's so much to discover, it's like, oh, Harry's dropped off at the Dursleys. Harry releases a snake. Harry is a wizard. Diagon Alley. Gringotts. Now we're on the Hogwarts Express. Now we're at Hogwarts. Now
Sorting Hat, yeah.
Now there's the Sorting Hat. Now there's a troll. It's like there's like now there's a Quidditch match.
Yes, yeah. No, I mean chapter after chapter, there's definitely just like always something going on, which I think is probably what made people, upon reading just this first book alone, just fall so in love with the series because it was just sort of like, well, I want more of that.
Right. Exactly. But that pretty much brings us to the end of Chapter 11, Quidditch. Next up, we'll have The Mirror of Erised, a very important chapter indeed.
Yes,
but
it's
Ben,
a
what did you think
beautiful
of the chapter art here for Chapter 11? We have basically just a couple of Quidditch players swooping around and some balls flying through the air. I guess all 4 balls.
Yeah, do we have all 4? Let's see. I see
Yeah.
a bludger. What looks like
there are 4
a
balls.
snitch. Yeah. Okay. Yep. There we go. Yeah, I think they're all there. No, I love it though. I mean,
Yeah,
just
this
Quidditch in
is
general. It's kind of one of those things
awesome.
like Quidditch. Sometimes I feel bad like beating up on it a little bit because it does seem like some of the rules, some of the details of it are just so like silly and quirky and weird. But like at the same rate, it is like one of my favorite parts of like all of the wizarding world.
Yeah,
Like,
when we were writing the like what if Harry was in Slytherin script, and whenever we got to a Quidditch match, it was super fun just to write the Quidditch matches.
Oh,
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's just sort of like what all goes different now. How does it play out? Like,
Yeah, and like how will that matter? How can you use the match to help develop the characters?
Right.
Yeah. So that's very fun. Also, I'm kind of looking at the artwork on the quaffle here, and I'm like trying to decide if it's sort of got that weird indented like shape to it that it does in the movies in this picture.
I think it might.
Yeah, it's sort of like, is this because this would sort of be like the very first interpretation of a quaffle, and it does sort of look like it has that like misshapen quality to it. So maybe it's like, is this the source of why the quaffle looks like the quaffle?
You know what I've always found interesting about the quaffle in particular is that it's just so inherently non-magical.
Yes, yeah. It's just a regular ball. Well, or a misshapen ball, I guess.
A regular misshapen ball.
Yeah.
The other big question I have too is that, like, in this chapter, a couple people take like a bludger to the head. It makes you wonder a little bit whether or not like there's anything. Like I was reading just a little bit behind the scenes that like the beaters bats in particular actually carry their own enchantments that like kind of like help them maintain durability whilst otherwise smacking cannonballs through the air. I do wonder, I mean, like if you were to take a cannonball to the head or a bludger to the head, like I mean it seems like that would basically take you out.
Yeah.
Like it seems like it could kill you.
It does seem like that. It feels like for what is effectively high school, they should have some sort of like cushioning charm on the bludger. Like, yeah, it'll knock you around, but like this isn't the pros.
But I mean, that's like my curiosity is basically like, it's like I almost wonder at all like with bludgers if like they are meant to be disruptors, and like while it's very easy to imagine how they could be incredibly dangerous, like I almost wonder if like they more like can speed along, and like once they like come in contact with you, it's more like shoving you than like just hitting you via cannonball velocity, like of some kind,
Right.
which I mean is never explicitly stated, and it seems like we have plenty of instances where where a bludger does hit somebody and causes rather significant damage. But like that's like one of those things where it's like I can't tell if there's like a chance that like wizards are just like more durable.
I think I don't feel like they're more durable as they are just like more repairable.
Maybe that's
like,
it. Yeah.
You break your arm, it doesn't matter because I just wave my wand in your back. Like, yeah, it hurt, but like you're good.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and that sort of like tracks a little bit. We're talking a little bit about like wizard money and how like it seems like maybe coveting gold is like not as common within the wizarding world because you can solve a lot of your issues with magic anyway.
Yeah.
So it seems like, just hearkening in on your like your skill as a wizard is probably just as useful as having like a vast stores of wealth.
Right.
So it's like maybe it's the same thing where it's just sort of like it's like like injuries we don't really mind that injuries can happen because we can just fix them.
Right.
It's not that big of like if you
these aren't like cursed injuries, these are like muggle injuries you're enduring.
Right.
Yeah.
So you broke your arm, it's like no big deal.
Right.
We just a flick of the wand. We'll
Flick
be
of the
solved.
wand.
Anyway, do you have a review for us to close out today's episode?
I sure do, Ben. This is from Theory List. It says, okay, so first of all, I love everything you do. Y'all are awesome. You help me calm down and laugh all the time. Anyway, so my theory is that Harry is a seer. In Chapter 7 of Philosopher's Stone, he has the dream about the turban talking to him, and along with all of his other dreams of things happening, like when Nagini attacks Mr. Weasley or when Frank the Gardener gets killed. I think it's possible. Anyway, love your shows. What do you think, Ben? Is Harry a seer?
Oh man, I mean, there's no doubt about it that Harry's dreams are extremely telling. But the big thing that I think you have to like keep in mind, at least, is just simply the fact that Harry has like a connection to Voldemort's mind, and I feel like when Voldemort is rising in power, like I feel like almost what you're seeing with like the turban dream is like that's a very mist-like form version of Voldemort. So like maybe it is a bit more abstract in terms of like how Harry entering into Voldemort's mind looks, because there's less of a mind to enter. It's more like a blurred concept of like thoughts and elements. Whereas like when he's like witnessing like what's happening to Frank Bryce, is that the gardener? Like literally at this point in time, you've got like rudimentary Voldemort who has this like basic body back. He's still incredibly weak, but like entering into his mind, you might be able to see what's going on, and then as you continue forward and like Voldemort discovers that Harry's destroying his Horcruxes, at that stage of the process, Harry's not just like seeing what Voldemort is seeing, but he's feeling what Voldemort is feeling.
Yeah, I mean, Harry eventually gets to the point where he can just like flit into Voldemort's mind like at will. But there, and so I mean, Harry certainly has most of the things he's seeing are in real time, not like the future.
Yes, that's a good point as well. Yeah.
Right.
So he's witnessing like what Voldemort is experiencing somewhere.
Right. So I don't think Harry is a seer because we also never see him see anything in the future that is not related to Voldemort.
Right.
And most of the things to do with Voldemort are in the present, and they are all basically directly connected to the fact that Harry is a Horcrux, and he's typically either seeing through the vantage point of another Horcrux, whether that's Voldemort or another piece of Voldemort's soul, whether that's Voldemort Prime himself or like through Nagini's eyes when she attacks
like
Mr.
Arthur
Weasley.
Yeah, that's a good point. And what else was I going to say about this was that basically like Trelawney, we do know eventually is like, I mean, despite the fact that she is teaching the class that should suggest that she should know that she's a seer, it seems like the actual visions she does experience, like the two that like Dumbledore regards as like, wow, I think that what you witnessed was like an actual true blue prophecy. She's not aware of either
she
of
doesn't
them.
even know that they happened.
Yeah, which is sort of like its own kind of like interesting. So like the fact that to me what that suggests is that like as a seer, if it's a skill, like it probably must be the case that you almost need to become what's the term, some people have talked about this before, like inside of their dreams where they can become like in the driver's seat and they can like fly around, and lucid dreaming is the term for it. And like people say you can train yourself to have lucid dreams where you can basically like fall asleep and then in the magical world of sleep just do whatever you want. So it almost makes me feel like to be a seer is like in a similar capacity. Like
Yeah.
you almost have to realize you're having these visions, and then also be able to like consciously enter the vision so that you can take something from it.
Yeah. But weirdly, the other thing about Trelawney is that, like, while she is unaware of the genuine prophecy she has, all of the little predictions she makes along the way are all actually true.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, which is annoying because she's like such a fraud, but like she's still always right.
I know, yeah. It'll be a lot of fun when we get to Prisoner of Azkaban, and we can take all of like her little like one aside comments and be like, this actually
happens,
does
yeah.
happen. Yeah, like she's not like she is making it up, but somehow also it does come to pass.
Right, yeah. Or some of the time she's not, like when she's like, yeah, Neville's gonna break the cups, and it's like, sure enough, Neville broke the cups, and it's like, did you just recognize that Neville's really clumsy, or did you just genuinely prophesize that?
Right, that's the question.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's very interesting. So anyway, I'm looking forward to for book 3 when we could really like just completely peel apart every layer of what Trelawney has to say.
Well, man, we're getting close to the end of book 1 here, because that was chapter 11, right?
Yes, we're coming up on chapter 12.
Chapter
Mirror
12 of
Erised.
17.
One of my favorite chapters. I'm
yeah.
super excited about this one. This is
The
gonna
super
be,
sad one.
It is a super sad one. It's going to hit you just square in the feels. But the Mirror of Erised is always one of those that I've just always thought was just like truly amazing. And I remember as a kid, the discovery that Erised is desire backwards, just thinking like,
Oh,
There-
and
there's
like
just-
if you saw it in a mirror,
then it's
you could read
reflected.
it.
Yeah. It's so cool. Anyway, I love the Mirror of Erised as an artifact. It's a fun one. So looking forward to chapter 12. But otherwise, until next time.
We will see you through the Griffin door.
Oh yes, so that was a fun video. And I really like that chapter. Like, that's a one that I really enjoyed going back to. That's kind of my favorite one from book 1. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about the chapter in the comment section down below. And before I sign off, I just want to say that this video is sponsored by WAG, and if you want to get 10% off your pals or stickers, use my code DJ before you set in the promo code section when you check out your order, or you use the link in the description down below. So that is, use my code DJ before you set in all caps in the promo code section down below. And when you use the link down in the description down below to place your order, and get 10% off your order. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. What? On.